he also said that his goal is to become the first American world champion.
A guy in front of him on that one.
It might be difficult to achieve this goal.
I mean, unless he's going to start in a completely different
maybe some
chess.
time travel is involved.
Exactly. Wow. Okay, that's quite a
This
dream.
podcast is probably going to be in his revenge highlight after he becomes a world champion.
Well, for me, the disrespect U.S. champion.
Here we go, back in St. Louis. It's been a long time since our last podcast. Everybody was traveling. You were traveling as well.
I was traveling.
Yasser. But finally, we're back in St. Louis, and I hope we're going to stay here for a little bit. We do have a big tournament coming up, Chess 9LX. We'll get to that in just a second. But first of all, Yasser, this is your
Absolutely.
second, third time on the podcast.
Third. I thought I would be invited once. Then it would be written in stone. Thou shalt not invite Yasser to another podcast ever again. So the fact that I made it to the third time, this is amazing. I feel like kind of a cat with 9 lives. But Fabi, no, seriously, I can't congratulate you enough. Well done on qualifying for the candidates. I, in my career, qualified twice for the candidates, but what you have done is absolutely remarkable.
I'm curious.
Yeah.
Which years and how was it qualified?
1985 Montpellier was a double round robin, and then they went to the candidates matches. I have lost to Jonathan Spillman in the candidate matches, so those were my two experiences. But what you have done, well, that blows away every American player for candidates. Full stop. End of story. So it's just well done. Now the question is winning the next
that would be good.
And the juniors are coming.
Oh my goodness.
Speaking of which, so I was I guess you've heard that Hans and Chess.com and Magnus and Hikaru all
reconciled.
settled. They all reconciled.
Wonderful. Mazel tov. Yeah.
And so Hans is back playing on Chess.com.
Right. And then
And he's
came the
also-
Kramnik.
That's another story. But he's also been streaming
Yes, he's back to streaming.
great popularity. And
Hilarity, did you say? Or
popularity.
I was going to say hilarity.
Maybe also.
But
Maybe
the
also.
Botez challenge?
Yeah, he did mention Botez
Yes,
as well.
I saw that.
But
too.
he also said that his goal, which he will manifest, is to become the first American world champion. The first
American world champion. There was maybe a guy in front of him on that one.
It might be difficult to achieve this goal.
I mean, unless he's going to start in a completely different
maybe some
chess.
time travel is involved.
Exactly. Wow. Okay, that's quite a
This
dream.
podcast is probably going to be in his revenge highlight after he becomes a world champion.
Well, for me, the disrespect U.S. championships where you were
Last year,
interviewed
yeah.
and he was saying, if you can't play anymore, you could always be a podcaster or maybe a commentator or maybe a streamer. I don't know, but I mean, I was disrespected on every level. It was wonderful.
We were basically made the bottom of the barrel.
Exactly.
Who the hell are you guys?
No, that was right. But no, welcome back to the world of chess, Hans Neimann.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Welcome, Hans. Fabi, I think the last time we talked was after your match against Yilmaz. A lot of things have happened. I know at that point you were like, I understand that at this point, this tournament is going to be extremely, extremely long, extremely taxing. That was a big match. I mean, it wasn't easy at all. I remember you were busted at some point.
That was the closest I was to getting knocked out before I actually got...
Really? The match against Yilmaz?
Yeah, definitely the closest because the second game I was objectively losing. So it wasn't like my first game against Linear where I was objectively losing, but the second game. So it makes it the closest just because it was out of my control.
If Linear wins at that point...
Still have a chance, however small
it's
it is,
equal.
to get back.
Yeah.
However small, I can still win the second game. If you lose the second game, that's it. It's over. And also, I was dealing with some very extreme anxiety during that match. I don't know why, but I was just like... Yeah.
Is it because of the rating difference?
I don't know. I don't think so because I didn't feel it in the first match. I didn't feel it in the third match, or the fourth or the fifth match. But for some reason that second match, and I don't know why it was, but I was even getting some physical symptoms, and after that things started to feel just a bit better. Maybe it was like I had been eliminated in the second match before,
Against
and
Jumabayev.
against Jumabayev.
Yeah.
Which I guess technically it's like the third match but okay, we get automatically seeded through through the first round, right? So,
Right.
So maybe I still had some memories of that. I'm not sure what it was, but
I wanted to ask you that as we were coming into the broadcast to the podcast. I was saying to you, you play an awfully lot of games, like full stop, tournament games. And you forget about the title Tuesdays, but tournament games aren't just mentally stressful. You also have this nervous energy, like you're now going to play an Armageddon. You qualified through the Armageddon, but now it's a new match. And this nervous energy, eventually you tap out. And so when you talk about an anxiety that you had in a certain match, I'm stunned that doesn't occur more often, because the nervous energy that you can experience in a tournament, and the concerns and the worries, and especially if you're not sleeping, you have a bad time sleeping.
yeah, that's really
it's
bad.
terrible. It's
That's really
brutal.
bad.
But talk more about, I'm curious about Baku itself and the event and how it was staged, and finally just making it to the semifinals with the group of players you did.
Yeah, it was. So I think it was overall well organized. There were some, I think, issues with the food in the hotel. I don't think the food was
At
too
the
great.
end, it was an issue that Magnus himself had, right?
Yeah,
Too.
it's not like it was. Okay, he got poisoning. I think that's also some bad luck, right?
Right.
I didn't get that, but in general, the quality wasn't so great with the food. That was my feeling. Then again, after 1 month, maybe all food starts to feel like, if you just get the same stuff, it all starts to feel
Right.
pretty bland and repetitive and not good. But yeah, overall, the playing all was nice. The anti-cheating measures, I think, were pretty good.
Right.
I saw that Maxime had a complaint that there was no
did
delay.
he?
It was like a public complaint. So
He posted on Twitter, I think.
yeah. it was-
What's his complaint?
He
Sorry?
basically said that there's no delay. Delay has been kind of a mainstay in all these big tournaments. We do this with the
Right.
Grandchester, we're doing it even with the Chess9 LX, but apparently there was no delay. And even before it started, I think he posted this before or after the first round or something like that.
It was very early on.
early
yeah.
on, yeah. Like, and he said that this is very strange.
So
coming
to
from
be
Twitter.
clear, what we're talking about, of course, is the broadcast delay. And the idea is that when the broadcast is not live, that there's a 15-minute delay, any senses of possibilities of cheating are just completely eliminated, because we're watching something 15 minutes outside of real time. Yeah. And there was no delay. Interesting.
Yeah, especially if you're relying on a second person. This deals with a second person.
Exactly.
You would have to do it on your own in that case.
Right.
Which makes it more difficult.
By a multiple factor, right?
Because
Yeah.
you're getting searched. Like we got
Yeah.
searched after pretty much every win, and then from the semifinals on, after every game.
Clear.
Win or lose, against the Bosov, I kind of ran away very quickly in the first. I don't know. They didn't complain to me or anything, but I was like, okay, if you're gonna accuse me of cheating after this game,
Right. Yeah.
I lost in like 19 moves. I mean, probably not the time to do.
I'm gonna call on this one. I don't think he cheated.
Not in this game. But I think that the anti-cheating measures are very important.
Yeah.
I mean, okay, in online chess, okay, it's a very big issue. But over the board as well, just to at least lessen the possibility. If someone... And also you kind of give some reassurance to people that there aren't suspicions. Because even if everyone's completely clean,
Yeah.
with no measures, you still don't want to have the suspicion there, because it messes with people's heads. It leads
Exactly.
to maybe some sort of talk, or even an explosion like what happened in St. Louis. Obviously, that could,
Right.
like the culmination if there's too much suspicion growing or too much pressure building up in a community. So you don't want that. And of course, you also want to lessen the possibility. Of course, maybe someone could find some high-tech spy stuff to.
Right.
But you want to at least mitigate the danger.
Exactly. It's such a different world and planet of chess today. I mean, the fact that computers are so incredibly strong and can be so impactful that we have to take these measures. But again, Baku, for me, and watching it as an outsider, was an extreme success. This is a great tournament with great names and, frankly speaking, great prize funds as well. So all around, just mazel tov.
I think the format is great. I think the knockout system does bring a lot of interest.
Would you like a double knockout? I mean, you do it for
Like
the American Cup.
Yeah.
I don't think it would work for the World Cup.
It's just too big.
Too many players.
Yeah.
It's too long.
Yeah.
You have to cut on.
You were
the-
there
the
25
time.
days.
Yeah.
If there had been a double elimination, that
You
would have
have to
been
make-
another round.
Yeah.
I think you have to make the format, the time a bit shorter. Like you have to play rapids or something like that.
You could change
For
the format
for
to
the
make it work.
eliminated for the
Or the
eliminated.
double elimination. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
So the problem with elimination is that it does have some randomness to it. I mean, you see big names knocked out early because
Of course.
they just have a bad move, a bad 5 minutes, and that's it.
Hey, Magnus had never won this event in his life
Yeah.
before.
And he was very close to getting knocked out by Keimer because
twice.
Twice.
2 lives that he had in Baku.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I
Which
mean,
one? The first one with Keimer.
And there was a second match that he was
That was
also
an incredible comeback, by the way. The one against Keimer.
Yeah,
Managed
to grind that.
I think
down.
against Zabasov was his next biggest danger because he was losing in one move with white pieces in the first game.
Yes, Queen G1. Yes,
He wouldn't have been out of it.
Right.
So
He
that
could
wasn't his
have
biggest
won
danger.
with black.
Yeah.
That's right.
Against Keimer, it was completely over because he had lost the first game and he was actually losing the second game.
Yeah, knight takes e4.
One move.
That was it. One
One
move,
move.
Right.
and he's out.
Yeah.
It was very similar to that moment when he played against Anand at the World Championship match.
Yes. Yeah, King D2. Or
He
whatever.
spotted it. He
Yeah,
saw the
instantly.
move instantly, and as soon as he made that move against Anand, I think he collapsed. He was like, okay.
Right.
And then against Keimer, he started looking around on.
Yeah, well,
on the ceiling.
by the way, that's another one of the things as a chess player when he, Magnus just looks to the camera and he's just staring at the camera, and then he looks back and the guy has played Queen takes e3.
Yeah.
And he looks again, like something's off. Something's amiss.
But at that point, you start feeling that things are going his way, right?
Yeah.
When Keimer misses that
Right.
basic tactic,
Yeah.
you feel like Magnus is probably going to come back.
Exactly.
Like, forget about the engine saying 0-0. Forget about. At some point, I think the engine was saying that black was better in the end game.
Maybe even slight.
But
no.
He was
No.
just going to grind
because
him down.
because again, it's this incredible feeling, and as grandmasters, this. It's sort of like you've been given this bill of health when you're dead, and it's sort of like, well, let's push it even harder now that maybe I can win and turn this around. But again, and Baku and the World Cup weren't the only great things that are happening. I think Düsseldorf was pretty a nice event, a new event. At least for me, this was a mini Olympiad. I mean, there was so many great stars. You played with an amazing team, and on paper, not that you did so well.
No, we didn't do too well.
But on paper, it was fantastic.
It was a very fun event.
Yeah, tough.
There was a lot of criticism about it,
fair.
that it wasn't,
An inaugural
legitimate
event.
or
Lots of
whatever.
things can.
Yeah, what was the event about? Why did it happen? I don't think that matters so much if it's like it's not detracting from anything.
Right.
It's if people want to watch it, if they enjoy watching it, then they can enjoy it.
Exactly.
And the players who play have a chance of money.
Exactly.
It gives amateurs a chance to play with players who they normally wouldn't play against.
And not just amateurs, Fabi. I am telling you, I was there in Düsseldorf. I saw an amazing number of junior players playing on the teams, and starstruck. Just kids looking at you, looking at Kramnik, looking at Vichy, and going, oh my gosh, I'm shoulder to shoulder with these guys. So, yeah, I mean, sure, there are reasonable criticisms. The winning team was deep, like an incredibly powerful squad who played very well together, by the way.
And I guess that's one of the criticisms, because they very often compared it to the Pro Chess League, where it had a rating cap. I feel like because at this tournament there were only like 3 realistically potentially winning teams, right?
Okay.
Out of what, 20? I think it was about 20 teams.
No, it was much more.
More than
it was
that.
Closer to 40. I beg
Closer
your
to
pardon.
40. Okay.
Yeah, there was like
But only the top 3 had a realistic chance to actually win.
provided the winning team played as well as they did.
Yes.
And they did play well together.
Yeah.
Right? It was pretty remarkable. I mean, Wesley had like maybe the worst result on board 1 with like +2, while everybody else, Prague, was doing amazing things on a reserve board and stuff.
But I feel you should put a rating cap.
They do that with the amateur teams here in the United States. You have the amateur teams east, west, north, south.
Right.
And a rating cap would make things very interesting. What we did in Seattle for the China match is we had 4 open boards. So women could also play on the open boards. Then we had 2 women's boards, 2 junior boards. Mm-hmm. Okay, we didn't have the amateur board, but I would love to have seen, the junior boards as well.
That's what they tried at the Global Chess Championship,
Which
right?
is fantastic. I
Was
love
that the Global Chess Championship?
No.
Yeah, in
no.
Dubai.
What was the Dubai one?
Oh,
what was the name of it?
Because there was also the global chess.com one. That was
that's
a
the
totally
Chess.com,
different thing.
The Rapid one, Wesley won it.
What was it called? Maybe it was called Global Chess
The
League.
Global Chess League. I think
Global
it was the
Chess
Global
League.
Chess League.
Yeah.
Yeah. They have. There's so many tournaments, right? You kind
Which is
miss
great.
them.
It's phenomenal that you just said what you just said, because there's so many events and they happen over the course of the summer. We just had here in St. Louis these classical events as well. I did some commentary with Begum, and it was really funny. Like Begum, man, she wasn't settling back. So we had done some analysis, and I realized at a certain moment in our analysis we had missed mate in 1. We'd missed checkmate in 1. So I said, Begum, I'm sorry, I got to apologize for you, but you've missed mate in 1. To which she answered, oh, I'm so ashamed for you, Yasser. She was right there.
She's punchy. She's punchy.
Oh, boy. I'm like, whoa. I was like, commentary, I got to tell you, you're a player, you're a coach, commentating, it's never been this good. There's so many events, and they're fascinating to watch, and they're all different. And whether it be Düsseldorf and Rapid Chess, or what's coming up tomorrow, Chess 960, 9LX. I mean,
I actually don't understand why they're calling it Chess 9LX instead of Chess 960. I'm sure there's some reason.
They wanted to have their
Brand
own
it,
branding.
yeah,
trademark it.
right?
Trademark
Okay.
chess.
Roman
Okay.
numerals,
Okay, interesting.
Chess 9LX. But
Interesting.
tell us, you have to choose from a plethora of events. How do you do it? How do you make is it just financial? Whatever pays best?
I prioritize the events which, first of all, are part of the cycle.
Yeah,
That's my first priority.
Or the
Yeah.
World Championship matches, World Championship cycle,
the
FIDE.
World Cup, the Grand Swiss, and so on. Those
Exactly.
events. After that, it's the Grand Chess Tour is going to be my next order priority.
Clear.
So those events I pretty much have set up from the start of the year that I'm
Right.
going to play the Grand Chess Tour, and then after that, it's probably based on what would earn me most profit.
What fits in the schedule.
And also fits in the schedule, yeah.
Right.
But it ends up being like a completely full schedule.
Yeah.
Even maybe more than full, especially with online events, because there's so many like chess.com events now, right? They're all pretty much nonstop.
Exactly.
Like I just finished one right after Düsseldorf, and then on September 18th there's another one.
September 18th. That's coming up really
That's
fast
pretty
too.
soon. And then after that, if you qualify for whatever division, then it's like September 24th.
You have another tournament before that, September 11th.
Oh yeah,
That's a new one.
There's a Speed Chess Championship,
Right.
which is like one day, and if you make it past that, then another day.
Right.
But it's
to
a serious
qualify.
event.
But yeah, it's a serious event, right? It's
Yeah.
it's all the best players in the world, with a few exceptions. Only I think Jan is not playing for reasons that I don't really know.
He
but-
actually made a pretty big fuss about it on the internet, on Twitter especially.
Jan
It was like, yeah, Jan. When they announced the list of the players,
Yeah.
he retweeted and he said, "I guess I'm not good enough," because he didn't get an invite for
No,
whatever reason.
he was invited.
He was invited,
I'm sure.
but then why would he tweet that?
Well, he probably declined.
Why would he?
I mean,
do
I don't
that?
actually know, but it's just unthinkable to me that he wouldn't be invited.
Okay, we're
Maybe I'm
speculating
wrong.
right now.
I could be wrong. I could be wrong.
Because that felt extremely sour from him,
right?
right? Like, I
Salty,
guess
yeah.
I'm not good enough type of thing.
Because I don't know how they do it, but it's should be by rating, no? And by rating, he would be.
Yeah, I guess at some point it's just
I-
like invitation based. I know the Grand Chess Tour is by rating.
Exactly. They want to make it as much
I'm going to
merit
check who's on.
based as possible. The Grand
Right.
Chess Tour. They
Right.
don't.
And then
play
you have the wild
games.
cards. And then you have
Yes,
the
then
every
the-
tournament wild cards.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
You get Magnus a couple of times, which was
Right.
no. This
Okay.
year's Grand Chess Tour was
So who's
pretty
playing the
serious.
Speed Chess Championship? Okay, so it's Hikaru and Magnus,
Makes sense.
Ding, Wesley. By the way, Wesley is much lower than Jan
Yes,
in rating.
yes.
Levon, I don't believe Levon played a qualifying event, and I don't believe that because Jan is much higher rated than Levon in classical, and probably
Jan is very high rated.
Probably higher at rapid and blitz than Levon. So why would he not get an invitation over? And Maxime, unless they played some sort of qualifying events, which I haven't seen them. I don't know. Maybe they have.
But then why did he tweet that?
Well, I don't know, but it's just unthinkable to me. I mean, when we were invited, I think he was also higher rated than me. And even now, I'm only a few points higher than him. So I don't really see how... It would be weird to me. I mean, it's possible, but it would be very...
I think there's something there. But again, we're just speculating here.
I got
it
in
just
a
felt
good-
like a very sour.
Well, just on that note, I got in a pretty good poke on Jan during Düsseldorf. I congratulated him on becoming world champion.
But he tweeted that as well.
I finally made it.
Maybe you inspired him.
Maybe I did.
He did tweet that.
Talk about poking and world champions. Ding Liren.
He's not
Suspiciously absent. What's
He's not
going
playing.
on with Ding? Does anybody know? Not me.
Nobody.
I mean, he
knows.
doesn't want to play.
He just.
But I don't see it
exhausted.
as so strange because he hasn't played before the match either.
No, that's right.
Like
this
he-
big pause.
It's one of the weirdest things, but he has basically been retired from chess for the last 3 years, as far as I can tell. I mean,
that's an interesting way of
I mean, he
putting
played
it.
the
I know
candidates.
he's not active, but retired,
well, if you don't play any events except for the candidates,
right?
and then you don't even try to qualify for the candidates, but then somehow
Magically do
you
get it.
magically get in. You don't even want to. Like he didn't play any
The
qualifying.
reluctant candidate. Yeah.
He's not even trying to qualify. Somehow he gets in.
Nicely done.
And then when he played the candidates, he wasn't even trying to win it. He somehow qualified.
I mean, he was out of contention the first half. That is for darn sure, right?
And like besides that, what events did he play? I mean, okay, he played some like
Tata Steel, perhaps.
Oh, yeah, he did play
in
Tata Steel.
preparation.
Yeah.
In
That's
preparation
true.
for
Right.
for the World Championship match.
I mean,
And then
he
Romania.
felt kind of absent there.
And
yeah.
Romania immediately after.
Yeah, he played Romania.
and then stop.
That was it.
Yeah. And then didn't
The
play
thing
in
is-
Grand Chess Tour.
In between these years, he played, I believe, the first couple of events on what used to be Chess 24.
Yeah, he was.
The Magnus Tour, basically.
Yeah, I played him a match there in 2020.
And after that,
yeah.
he retired from that as well. Like, I don't think he played a lot of those. You were seeing all these players playing pretty much every single one of them, but he, after two of them, I think just basically retired. Sure, he always had internet problems. Whenever
Yes.
this was the case, he always had internet problems. He wasn't doing well because of time difference as well. So there were a couple of impediments to him doing well. But yeah, it's a bit strange. And this has been raised by a lot of people, this question, and nobody actually knows why he's not.
As world champion, you certainly have an ambassadorial
You have the torch.
role.
Yeah.
Yeah, you've been now. You got to run with the torch and lead us to wherever you want to go. Speaking of leaders, if you don't mind me asking, Magnus is simply amazing. I mean, let's stop. I mean, just Jesus, the guy is just doing incredible things. But at the same time, he stepped outside of the world championship cycle, and he said, "Ding Liren, Jan, you guys play for the title, and may the best man win." Diminishes the world championship cycle, his absence.
Yeah, it's hard to argue that it doesn't.
Of course,
I mean, of course, it still has a great deal of meaning.
of course.
But okay, to say that it's at the same level, it would be silly, right?
Right.
Yeah. No matter who wins the next one or the one after that, as long as unless that person also surpasses Magnus in rating,
Exactly, as the number
which
one.
could happen.
Yes,
It's not
yes.
out of the question. I'm not saying it's likely, but it's not out of the question. Unless that happens, or Magnus starts to, like, let's say, dip in results, then at least it's diminished. It's still, of course, a tremendous achievement to win a world championship match.
Right.
Right. It's not like you beating Jan is a tremendous achievement, or beating Ding is a tremendous achievement, but it's still not the same as playing Magnus.
So you feel it as a player yourself, like, I'm playing this world championship cycle, but I'm not going to be playing against Magnus. I'm not facing the best.
Well, it's definitely not the same if I play someone else. Well, okay, first of all, I would be thrilled just to get there. It's not even the question.
Right.
Like, for me, it doesn't really matter, because I don't base my decisions on the decisions of Magnus or anyone else, right?
Clear. That's not out of your side of your responsibility.
Yeah. I was going to play the cycle regardless of who is playing in it.
Agreed.
Whether it's Magnus, if he wants to play the candidates, he still can.
Yeah.
And I'll play him there.
Because he's not playing the
He's not going to play the candidates. But
Right.
of course, my decision to play the candidates or not is not based on him.
Right.
But from the outside point of view, from the fan perception,
Yeah.
obviously they're going to give more weight if Magnus plays the candidates and then the winner beats him in the candidates.
The reason I bring it up, Fabi and Christian, the reason I bring it up is I entered the world of chess with this massive question mark hanging over the world of chess. I got caught up in the Bobby Fischer boom. And then by the time I started playing in tournament chess, Bobby quit. So Karpov becomes the world champion, and everybody says, yeah, but he couldn't beat Fischer. And then all the chess fans going back and forth. So there was Karpov winning everything from literally 1975 to the advent of Gary in 1985. So this 10-year period, he's got this cloud over his shoulder of, like, could Fischer win? And then Fischer comes back in 92. Kasparov, we flash forward, Kasparov loses a match in 2000. He remains, unlike Fischer, the number one rated player. He continues playing, but there's Kramnik, there's Ponomaryov, there's Rustam, there's world champions galore, and there's Garry Kasparov, the number one ranked player, and everybody's saying, yeah, the legitimate match has got to include. And then finally we get this reunification. And then finally we come to 2013, or even before 2013, Vichy really consolidates. And then the question mark is gone. Like,
First Kramnik, right, in 2006. I guess this was the first unification.
but they didn't know. That's with Topolov. But even that, Toilet Gate.
Okay, it had a lot of weird things around it, but he did win the match.
But at least you could call that certainly by the time you get to Bonn, because then they changed the system in Mexico City to, a player double round robin world championship like San Luis. Anyway, I'm saying for sure by the time you get to 2013, question marks are gone. And it's sort of such a relief as a chess fan, as somebody who lived in these Bobby Fischer overhang period. And now comes Magnus's decision to step out. And I think that is just, as a chess fan, again, just as a chess fan, this is so impactful. And for me, by the way, it's not just Magnus, it's Hu Yifan. If I'm
But there's a big difference there.
Well,
and there's a big difference there.
The number one lady,
Yes.
She's withdrawn from the world of chess.
Yes, but she's semi-retired at this point. Magnus actually plays everything
He does.
except the World Championship match.
Exactly.
That's about it. Like, he plays the World Cup. He's a very active. He used to be a very active world champion. He is still extremely active in online Rapid and Blitz events. Pretty much. I'm sure he's going to play in December.
Right.
The World Rapid and Blitz. He just doesn't like the format of the World Championship match. So there's a big difference between him and Bobby, for example, right? Because Bobby just disappeared from the world of chess.
But precisely. But I'm saying
Hu
something.
Yifan, also.
Yeah, but Hu Yifan also had issues with the FIDE cycle. She didn't like the FIDE cycle. So I'm saying, wait a minute, guys. If I'm a sponsor of chess, and I am, and if I'm a chess fan, and I am, the FIDE is doing something wrong. The World Championship is not appealing to the number one lady, to the number one guy. And this is injurious to our crown jewels. What are our crown jewels? Our World championship match titles. I mean, of course, we appreciate our titles, but the world championship is what you are inspired to play for. And I think, speaking for your colleagues, the same, right?
I think that we can't rule out that there will be big changes at some point.
You can't rule out, or
can't
you
rule
can't?
it out. Can't rule it out.
You,
Because
somebody
especially now,
taking notice, right?
I don't know. I don't know where it will come from, but we have a lot of big entities in chess, and definitely chess has taken on a slightly different life from, let's say, the recent past. Let's say 5 years ago.
Well,
Things have changed a lot.
Online the
Online
COVID has just changed everything,
Yeah.
and the online scene has become enormous.
There's a lot more popularity.
Right.
So I don't know what that will bring, but I wouldn't be surprised if there are some big changes, which maybe go into the actual classical cycle, but maybe they don't. Maybe it stays the same. But okay, it's interesting that you pointed out, going back to 1972. There's been pretty much from 72 to 2013 a huge period of
Indecisiveness and
Just a
uncertainty.
lot of, sometimes weird things going on. Sometimes we don't know who the best player in the world is.
Right.
Sometimes we do, but that player isn't the world champion.
Right.
I don't think that's ever been a problem in the past.
Before 1972, or, well, maybe there was, but
Actually,
Capablanca,
We didn't know about it. Yeah.
It's interesting. Part of this, the commentary team for the, what was it called, Champions Chess Tour, they were like, who are the goats of chess? So obviously, all the commentators picked Gary, Magnus, and Judith as 3 goats, and then there were some differences in the last 2 picks.
Right.
And one of the picks, obviously Fischer was up there and so on, Karpov. But one of the picks was Botvinnik.
Interesting.
And I was like, how can you pick
Botvinnik.
Botvinnik? Like, no offense to Botvinnik.
Right, but
There's like
No.
10 players that you have to pick before Botvinnik.
right.
Which is kind of unrelated.
Right.
But I was recently looking through the history of the World Championship, which I kind of knew about, but I was looking a bit deeper into it. And Karpov, even though he didn't win a match against Fischer,
Yeah.
he did dominate the chess world for a period of time.
Yeah, 10 years.
For like a decade, yeah.
I got to throw in 2 things here because I think they're hilarious. The first one is what you were just saying about Anatoly Karpov. People forget that in his first match, he was winning 5-0 against one of the guys you're going to say is a GOAT, myself included, Garry Kasparov. Garry Kasparov survived that and then came back. But one of the great lines of all times was in 1992. Bobby Fischer returns to chess, plays a match against Boris Spassky 2, if you will, wins a match that's played for $5 million.
Takes his money.
It takes his money,
Flies
disappears.
away into the sunset.
But along comes Garry Kasparov. So there's a journalist in Linares saying, Mr. Kasparov, I'm just a journalist and I'm writing about the world of chess. Down the road, Bobby Fischer is playing a world championship match. What do you think about that? No, it's not a world championship match. They're playing old man's chess, replies Garry Kasparov. Old man's chess. Okay, I get that. But why isn't it a world championship match? Why is your match with Nigel Short the world championship match? Here it comes. You ready? It's about the money. Whoever makes the most money is the world champion. Bobby's playing for $5 billion. You're playing for $1 million. Bobby's playing for $5 million. You're playing for $1 million. So you know what I mean about the indecisiveness of the world.
Yeah.
This chess journalist is trapped. How do I report this to my readers?
How do I let him know that if it is about the money, and we're talking about that world championship?
Is it about the money? Is
I don't
it
think at
about
all.
the money?
I don't think the money is at all relevant. I mean, it is to the players,
Of
but not
course.
to the legitimacy of the match.
Okay.
I mean, in that case, we have to discount all matches before 72, right? I mean, what were they playing for?
6,000 rubles.
Yeah, nothing. And,
Right.
I mean, okay. So Bobby and Spassky, they played for a decent price.
Yeah, 250,000.
Okay, yeah, a lot of money back then.
A lot of money. First of all, the prize fund, as I remember it, it was supposed to be about 20,000 US dollars, full stop. The Icelanders were in competition with Yugoslavia. And somehow, I believe Yugoslavia was going to win at the time, but somehow Iceland got 125,000, which was an amazing bid. And I think the Yugoslav tipped their hats and said, good luck. And Bobby said, not enough. And it was already at that time maybe 6 times whatever the FIDE minimum was. Bobby said, not enough. It was actually James Slater. He was a British guy who was a student of Leonard Barden. Said, okay, I think you're chicken. I'll double the prize fund. He put up 125,000 on top of what the Icelanders did, and he called Bobby out. Bobby got on a plane and went to Iceland. I mean, the history of the world champion, it's great stuff. World championship matches are great, 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 great. Inspiring. And we talked about diminishment a moment ago. Is the world championship title going to be restored? What?
Let's take it back a notch, actually,
Please,
because
Christian.
At some point you made a very interesting point, Fabi. You said that there's going to be some changes, or perhaps there will be some changes,
Yeah.
right? And there's a lot of players right now, big players in the world of chess. You have chess.com, you have FIDE,
Yes,
which everybody complains about. You have the Grand Chess Tour and the St. Louis Chess Club. What does it take for Magnus to get back into the mix?
Well, I said they're perhaps, this is just speculation based on
Right.
the general interest in chess, the trend
And I agree with
that I've seen in the last few years, which everyone has seen, right? That it's
Clear.
mostly moving online
Yeah.
and moving towards faster time controls.
Clear.
And just that, okay, Magnus, obviously he has some sway. He hasn't swayed FIDE to change their
What does it take to sway FIDE and maybe change the format of the World Championship match? Maybe, I don't know, FIDE selling the rights of the World Championship match. I don't know. What is your opinion?
I have no idea. I don't know what influences people at FIDE, what they're looking for, if they care about the history, if they just care about what's the best business decision. I have no idea.
Well, I'll just take it back a little bit now. Go with very, very little I know. First of all, I mean, FIDE over its history has been a very contentious organization because you had the Bobby Fischer issues with the Soviet Chess Federation, and there was the Cold War, and then you had Carlsen and Campo, very controversial presidents. The crazy part is I think right now FIDE's done a remarkable job. I really do. I mean, just organizing the Olympiads is an enormous undertaking. Organizing the World Cups is an enormous undertaking. And when you think about all of those things that FIDE does, including the rules and regulations, including the titles, and so many things could go wrong, and they do a lot competently. Here, as I understand it, the FIDE actually put together a team, a committee for the World Championship. I think it's called the World Championship Committee, where they did take the organizers, the Jeroen Vandenberg from the Tata Steel and other organizers around the world, and got them together and said, guys, make the World Championship cycle, talk to the players and everything like that. And it came out to what it is today. And I think that the FIDE has always had an open mind, but we heard rumblings and complaints from Magnus, which was make the World Championship system more modern. That's what he said. Make it more modern.
Sure.
Okay, but give us the idea what is modern.
Well, he said more games. He wants more games.
Okay.
Maybe a short time control, more games.
So yeah,
There you
more games
go.
and faster.
Yeah.
That's what Magnus wants. On the other hand, I think
It's sets, if you will, just
Yes.
like the Magnus Carlsen tour
Sure,
itself.
yeah.
Just have a set each day.
I think Magnus would also agree that we shouldn't be making decisions based on his personal desires.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you don't have people in other sports changing the system based on what they want.
Fair.
they might be the greatest of all time, and
Right.
people might want to watch them more than anyone else. But still, you don't hear about
Right.
tennis changing.
No.
Like
no,
suddenly it's more sets because
right.
Djokovic wants more sets or less sets. I mean, it just doesn't
Right.
happen, right?
Right.
So I don't think there's anything wrong with Magnus giving his preferences.
By the way, just on that note, in the world of tennis, because I actually really do like tennis, the world of tennis was changed, and it was changed dramatically by the television. So the television basically said, when you get to 6-6 in sets, we're going to have a tiebreaker and not
We have to
play to
finish it.
two.
We have to finish it.
We have
Yeah.
to finish it.
Yeah.
And then they said, however, on the fifth set, we will let the two games, and then there was a Wimbledon where it went like 48 to 50
I think it was Djokovic versus Federer.
for like 3 days. No, it was two other
Was
guys.
this Isner's match?
Yes.
With the American.
Like,
Yes,
but it was the TV that pulled the weight and said it wasn't a player, but it was the TV said, no, we got to make this.
Which is what could happen to chess, that
Right.
just the online scene or the
Right.
online entities.
Because the
lead to some
rights
sort of
that the
change.
television was paying were so great. Right now, television is not paying the broadcast.
And that's
for chess.
probably what has to happen. Like, you get an ESPN, you get a big network, you get maybe chess.com will come to FIDE and say, okay, we're going to pay you this amount of money, this offer
For
that
this
you
licensing.
really cannot refuse.
Right.
And then we're going to set our own rules, basically.
Right.
But yeah, it's that sounds
To appeal as much as possible to a fan base.
But
Because
I also don't understand it. I mean, we have, like, they want to say, or okay, we're speaking hypotheticals here, but let's say ESPN came in and they want to say, we want to host the World Championship. And someone else is like, well, FIDE, they have the World Championship. And their World Championship is 3 weeks long.
Right.
And ESPN says, no, we don't want that.
we don't want a 3 week
We want
long.
5 days
Max.
and 2 hours a day
Right.
of like
300 moves. We don't want any.
we want a lot of games. We want it all fast.
Yeah, we want it in this compact time period.
But they can also just do that.
Of course.
Like, they can
and here's
partner
$100
in-
million and let's go players.
Yeah, I don't think anyone's dreaming of $100 million in chess, but let's say they
not yet.
let's say they want to give like $2 million to the whatever
And
tour, and they can
everybody
do that.
shows up.
But maybe they want to call it the world. Does that actually matter? Do they really need to call it the World Championship? Can't they just call it the online World Championship or the ESPN
That
World
was one of
Championship
the
or whatever?
that was one of the biggest things that Kasparov had faced when he broke away with the GMA, the Grandmasters Association. So this idea that there would be these parallel World Championship matches, and then the FIDE saying, "Hey, look, like we're going to have a players tour, but we're going to have an official tour." I think for a lot of sponsors, like seriously, it's not a joke. I think for a lot of sponsors, they don't want competitive organizations. They want a single that everybody is singing from the same hymn book. Now, on the other hand, you made a very good point. I mean, and we have seen that in the past with the PCA as well, the Intel Grand Tour, what Gary Kasparov organized himself, a breakaway. And then there was that famous line from Carlsen. Did you hear that? So the line from Carlsen is, Ruslan is our world champion. Tomorrow we will have a PepsiCo world champion. He was trying to say Pepsi, but it was PepsiCo world champion. They'll make a world champion from Pepsi. And the way he presented it, it was a very legitimate argument against a splitting.
It's funny because there's this big controversy. It's been
Beautiful
like
word,
last
by the
week's
way.
controversy, basically.
Last week's
in the
controversy.
world of sports. I think it was the sprinter from the US that won dominantly the world championship in 100 meters, I think in 200 meters as well. But basically, they were comparing him to Usain Bolt, like at that level. And he was like, why do the NBA players call themselves world champions?
Right.
I am the world champ. I am a world champion. These guys
saw
are
this.
hypocrites. They're not world champions. They're American champions because
Right.
the NBA is the National
Right.
Basketball Association. And then everybody from the NBA side were like, Yes, but all the best basketball players play in the NBA, so we should call ourselves the world champions. And you get that in baseball as well, right?
Of course, we're the world champions
of baseball, but it happens in the United States. So, yeah, it's.
But isn't that changing now in basketball?
Well,
like
they
European.
have the FIBA basketball world championships going on.
Oh, it's not official. The
I
NBA
mean,
guys
like,
are just saying we are the world champions.
No, I just mean that other countries are getting.
Yeah, America usually doesn't fare so well actually in those world championship matches.
In the world champion,
like Lithuania
is a world champion.
Yeah,
the world championship, right?
Very, very.
I'm not surprised by Lithuania. Have you seen their chess team? All of them are like 6'4". I mean, if their chess team is all 6'4", imagine their basketball players.
Basketball might be very, very good. The world of chess has, right now, I feel like, Fabi, I have a hard time as a commentator, not as a player. I once again, as a commentator, just keeping up with all the things that's going on. Aren't you overwhelmed?
A little bit. I mean, it's mostly good, I have to say. I would
like that versus the alternative for sure.
It's the most profitable time in chess for a chess player.
A golden era, if you will.
I can't speak about the 90s, right? I think there was very good money in chess in the 90s.
Mm-hmm.
But right now, from how long I've been playing, this has been the most profitable era for the last few years. Just because online chess brings a lot of extra money.
Exactly.
And also, like, if you look back, there were a lot of what I would call dark periods in chess in terms of like complete confusion about who is the world champion.
Absolutely.
I mean, if we go back to when there was those like knockout world championships, and then you had Gary as the best player in the world, and then you had Kramnik as the guy who beat him.
Right.
And then sometimes you had like a tournament every once in a while, like 2005, Topalov wins.
Right.
And before that you had Rustam winning.
And Rustam and Ponomarev.
And Karpov and Anand. And you have all these knockouts, and then you have this, and finally you had the unification in 2006. But before that, it was like who...
It was terrible. And a lot of sponsors were dropping the game just because of that reason right there, this overhang of who's the world champion.
And if we look at like where the tournaments very often were, I mean, in 2004 it was held in Libya.
In Libya, in
Tripoli. In Tripoli. Yeah. And it's probably like...
that was actually hilarious, by the way. Just a footnote on Tripoli. I was invited to play in the World Cup, and I declined. I declined because the Jewish players from Israel were all barred. And I thought, come on, you can't.
It's not fair.
It's just not fair. So more or less out of camaraderie, I'm not Jewish, but out of camaraderie, I said, look, I can't play in this tournament that's being boycotted. What is it? Banned. There's a ban. Yeah. And I got a call. The guy who called me from FIDE trying to convince me to change my mind and play, his name was Israel Gelfer. He was trying to get me to play in Tripoli. Like I was getting tasered on this call. Like, Mom, you're not going to believe what just happened.
Do you remember how it, I mean, not really culminated, but Vadim Milov was supposed to play.
Yeah.
Right? He's a Jewish player.
From Switzerland, right?
I think he was playing for Switzerland at the time. But he said that he won't be able to play and so on. They said, no, you'll be able to play. And then he said, yeah, but you said I could, but then you didn't send me the visa on time and so on. And he was like, I don't remember the exact details, but basically you didn't allow me to play.
Exactly.
And then he sued them.
Yeah.
No.
No. There's a sport court in Switzerland too.
In Lausanne?
Lausanne, yeah.
Yeah,
But by the way, Rustam wins that one, and that was a big surprise. Those World Cups, I mean, they're incredibly hard fought, but the favorites were all getting knocked out.
But that was the world champion.
Yeah.
That was not the World Cup. That was the World Championship.
That was the official World Championship.
It was basically a World Cup. The way the World Cup looks like
of course,
right
today,
now, it used to be the World Championship.
Exactly.
I think that Rustam's path was pretty strong. Like he beat Topalov and then he beat Mickey in the final.
Yeah, and by the way, he beat Topalov, who scored like 10.5 out of 12.
Yeah, he had some
in
crazy
matches.
Topalov
was just amazing. He was ripping through and then Rustam stopped him. Yeah,
Yeah,
sorry.
no, he had but I've checked like some previous of the Knockout World Championships, and it's very mixed. Like sometimes you have a really tough run to the final, sometimes you don't.
Right.
I mean, it's
It's
these
a
things, right?
cakewalk,
Like,
right?
yeah, it's a bit of a. I think the knockout format is great, but for a world championship, it's a little bit maybe a little bit too random. Yeah.
Which, by the way, now it seems to me that the players themselves, you've made adjustments. It seems to me that Baku is a case in point. You know, Magnus wins. And then if you think about Sochi, I mean, Duda, right? I mean, but Duda's actually in the favorite group, if you think about it
And
that
he
way.
was, yeah.
Yeah. And I'm saying the favorites are starting to win, whereas I think when Ruslan, I may get this wrong, I apologize to Ruslan. I think when Ruslan actually won the world championship FIDE, he was like top 100.
Yeah, it could be.
You know, it's just like really
He wasn't over
remarkable.
2,700, right?
No. Gary said that he was preparing for a match with Ruslan, and he was looking at his games from the Reykjavik Open.
But also Rustam was
It's also out of
26
nowhere. Yeah.
Under
High-
2,700. Yeah.
Yeah, but significantly.
2690, right?
No.
Wasn't he?
No, not even close to 2,700. I think in the mid 2,600s.
Really?
I could be.
But I'm just saying that today it feels like to me the players are taking the World Cup a lot more seriously, and they're playing harder chess, and the favorites are beginning to use the format to their advantage, whether it means taking it to overtime or whatever.
Yeah, it's also for everyone besides Magnus. This was a big chance to qualify for the candidates, right?
Exactly.
It's not guaranteed for anyone.
Exactly.
Did you see why Ferrugia? He said why he didn't play the World Cup.
I didn't know why.
He just said that it was too long. He said I couldn't imagine being in one place for that long.
It's remarkable that he should say that, because it was a complaint that Magnus made in one of his interviews. He was like, Magnus was, I think it was after Vincent, and he was saying like, it's torture. Like these days are really, really long, and I'm playing this classical. Why am I doing this to myself?
But that's because Magnus doesn't need it. That's why he's allowed to have those type of thoughts. Ferrugia shouldn't be allowed to have those type of thoughts. Like, come on, you need it. You need to get the candidates. You need to get the World Championship match. Like, how are you going to get there? You have to take every single opportunity that you have. Hikaru, he usually doesn't play this type of things, but right now he wants to go to the candidates, so he plays every single chance that he has to try to make it there.
Exactly.
Ferrugia shouldn't have that. I mean, those thoughts are
also,
very strange.
Magnus is 33?
Yeah.
It's getting up
You're allowed to say that after you've been playing chess for 20 years. So
at the highest levels, yeah.
Ali
won
Rez
everything.
Ali Rez is still super young. Super young.
Come on.
Like at least go through one of these brutal events, and then you're like, okay, I hate this shit. Everyone hates this shit. Nobody wants to play for 1 month straight. It's not fun,
Right?
You want to take a break every now and then, right?
Right.
You want to go home,
but you also feel the pressure all the time, right?
Yeah,
when you're in the event, it's an exhausting event.
It's not pleasant. I mean, the way I look at it with the World Cup is that, it's going to be a huge time commitment, but most likely, if I make it a really huge time commitment, then it was probably worth it.
Right.
And if I fuck up, then I didn't waste too much time. That's one way you can look at it, right?
Right.
At least, like sometimes in a classical tournament, you're playing badly, and then you're just there doing nothing for 2 weeks, right?
Quick question. You're digging down. You just made it through your third round, which is maybe the fourth round for everybody else. Then you make it to the fifth round, and now you're thinking, I can just taste getting to the semifinals. Getting to the semifinals means I'm going to be qualifying for the candidates. Your anxiety level jumps?
It wasn't as high as that match against Yilmaz for whatever reason.
Yeah, it didn't happen.
So that was a match against Lanier where
that was such
for
a
the
brutal
semifinals,
match,
right?
Yeah, right.
So that was when we pretty much figured that Magnus is going to get to the semifinals most likely.
Right.
Who was he playing? He was playing. Was it Ivanchuk at that point or Gukesh?
Ivanchuk.
Wait,
are you sure?
No, I think it was Gukesh.
I think it was Gukesh.
Because there was like four Indians really doing incredibly well.
Finally was Gukesh.
Vidit was in there too. He could easily, he was like a step away from the candidate. Sorry.
So Vidit, Gukesh, Prague, and Arjun. Prague and Arjun played each other.
Yes. Right.
So So yeah, that was the moment when I was like, okay, Magnus is probably, it's not 100%, but very, very good chance that he's getting there. And so whoever wins
between you
between
and Linear
will probably get to Kansas. It's not 100%, but probably. So normally there's a lot of pressure there.
Exactly, you could feel it.
I did feel the pressure. I have to say also like luck is involved, right? I really shouldn't have saved that first game.
Exactly.
I think Linear also maybe his tiredness got to him.
Right.
Because the way that he didn't win the first game to me was a little bit strange. It felt like tiredness. It felt like something just kind of shut down a little bit at some point. And also that he lost the second game also felt a little bit like tiredness. So I think some luck was involved for me, but I didn't feel tremendous pressure. And after that, I sort of relaxed. Like after that match,
yeah, right. Like then there goes the semifinal.
Yeah, maybe it wasn't good because
Right.
maybe I was a bit too relaxed against Prague, maybe a little bit. But yeah, at that point, I figured probably the main goal. But then I lost to Prague, and I'm like, okay, I don't actually want to get fourth place, right?
Right. No.
And then
you
wait
don't.
for Magnus to officially
Exactly.
like-
You want to clinch it.
and so I was pretty upset. But yeah, when I lost my first game to a Basov, I was like, okay, at least don't go out like this, Don't play like an idiot for the second game. At least like make it a fight. So things kind of worked out in that sense in the end.
But yeah, at that point, I messaged you and you were like, I'm so dead right now. Like energy wise, I'm just like,
After
you
Prague
also
or-
said
no,
it.
after you lost against the Basov the first night.
I
I
was.
think you said it in an official interview too, just how drained you were.
Yeah, I was very drained. I really was. I think everyone was, so I wasn't trying to like use it as an excuse or anything.
No.
But
Did you manage to get some energy back for that second game, or?
I don't know. I mean, I think I was at the end of the game. I was actually like kind of dying at the board. I was like, okay, just last a few moves longer. The game's about to end. Just don't like blunder your rook or something.
Right.
So I was just trying to keep it together. And then for the tiebreak, I felt totally fine.
Right. I felt in my career over time that, especially if a marathon tournament like a Vaikanze, where you really give your all, and then literally your body shuts down after the event. You now permit yourself to get a cold or flu or whatever it is, and you just kind of go into this, like cave-like hibernation for a day or two. Is that happening to you often, or do you allow yourself to even have those
often.
respites?
Let me think. So the candidates is probably.
Well, for example, after Baku.
I just started playing a tournament right away after that. I mean, I
Caruana, He's got the stamina,
No, I went to Düsseldorf, right?
Right.
Düsseldorf. But Düsseldorf was sort of like relaxation for me. Like I haven't seriously looked at chess since Baku. And so I was with someone in Baku, second, right?
Right.
And also like I started using this program Chessify, or like which I now I'm kind of endorsing them, right?
Okay.
So, and it actually logs the amount of hours that you work. And we were also working a week beforehand. So guess how many hours a day of actual chess engine being turned on were logged by the both of us together combined?
I know the
on
answer.
average.
I know
on
the
average.
answer. So
but you run the engine also because you're asking the engine to look at some openings, right?
But we're almost always going to be working during that time. Like
Right.
we don't
So
just leave it and then go away for a few hours.
That was my
doesn't,
question.
That doesn't happen.
Okay. So I'm going to guess 14 hours? Is that
19 between the two of us.
combined?
Yeah, I think he was doing more than me. But it was 19 on average.
And then you're playing
day.
as well.
Yeah. So I was.
I mean,
I was doing about-
It's nonstop.
that's brutal.
I was doing like 9. He was doing over 10.
I mean, it's just stunning.
So after that, I haven't really seriously looked at chess in the past week or so. I also played a match against Lazovic, then against Abdusattarov.
It's ridiculous.
But I haven't really looked at, like, I didn't prepare for those and against Magnus, I didn't prepare for those matches at all. But it's just difficult at some point to. That's why I'm glad this is like Fisher random chess.
Exactly.
Don't
you
have
can
to
turn
prepare.
off your engines. You don't have to prepare. You just play good chess and good moves. Wow. And guys, seriously, I enjoy your podcasts. So first of all, I watch them and I really enjoy them. But at the same time, I have to say, you both keep extraordinary busy schedules, Christian. So how do you guys connect? How do you manage
I mean, the last few
this?
months, I think we've done over the internet, online. Like for the most part, especially in the last 3 to 4 months, I think since Vike, maybe? No.
No, there
Vike
was
is
No.
January.
I mean, we did American Cup Live at
Yeah,
this
okay,
table.
American
Yep.
Cup, yeah.
Let me think.
at
what
this table.
At this table.
At this actual table.
With you.
Welcome to my welcome to my crib, right?
And this was the footage that I saw on the hard drives when I deleted them, when I formatted them before we started this
because
podcast.
you were maxed out on your.
I was maxed out because of this at the American Cup, so I think that was the last one.
Yeah, that was
was
probably the
funny.
last live one, which is kind of funny. American Cup was in April, is that correct?
March, April, maybe something like that. Maybe
I think
beginning of April.
I think beginning of
Guys,
April.
we got to stop meeting like this. People are going to talk.
No, it wasn't April. No. It was the middle of March, because at the beginning of April we had the Final Four collegiate.
Okay,
tournament.
so it's the beginning.
Middle of March. That's 6 months.
But the bottom line question still remains: how do you guys do it? How do you guys connect up and manage? Because you're both keeping very busy schedules. You as a coach,
as our viewers know, we don't really.
does the word random mean anything to you? In a random universe, when two people come together,
It's advertised as a weekly.
Oh, very good, very good
podcast.
advertising.
But we didn't say how many weeks in between.
In a year.
We were really good about it at the beginning of the podcast. But the thing is, we also had a lot more time at the beginning of the podcast.
Right.
And then the thing is, if we are both at the same place, it's much easier to make it happen. But once everybody is in different time zones, that's a big one as well.
Exactly.
In different places,
the
with
time
different commitments, you have to train 19 hours a day for,
Craziness.
probably some of the most important chess games of your life. So it's kind of difficult. But we keep a flexible schedule. Not a weekly schedule.
When we
anymore, a
started,
flexible
it was
schedule.
pretty much an ideal moment in the chess world, right?
Right. And
It
something
was-
fun. And
It was right before the Sinkfield Cup.
Right.
As everyone remembers the Sinkfield Cup.
And you've got all of these wonderful stars to invite into your home and have a conversation. I'm sorry, you slipped something past me and my spidey sense was alerted. What are you doing? What did you call it? The Chessify? Tell me about that. What the You're
okay.
doing
I'll
a
do some.
program.
I'll do some
ads.
Advertising.
ads for Chessify.
What is Chessify?
So Chessify is a service that offers cloud computing,
Sounds good.
and
It's so super engine.
so you rent a server,
Okay.
and you can upload it to ChessBase, for example, right? If you're using ChessBase as your program, you can also use it on their website. Like they have a board that you can save the analysis to, or whatever. But let's say if you're using ChessBase, then you can use their server to upload an engine to ChessBase.
Wonderful.
And depending on the speed you want, you can get anywhere from a good speed to something that nobody really needs. Now, I'm not really doing a good ad for them anymore, but like something that is just.
So you're
super,
saying,
super
and you
strong.
would use a cloud engine because it's like a supercomputer, and that's much better than a commercial engine.
Nobody uses commercial engines at the top level anymore.
That's what I mean.
It just doesn't happen.
Because your need is so great. But continue.
Yeah, this would be like 1,000 times faster than your average commercial desktop or whatever. I mean, so the reason I say that you don't really need it is because at some point computers just tend to go towards, okay, this position is equal.
Yeah.
The stronger they get.
Yeah.
But okay, if you want to have fun, then you can get a super strong engine, and it can also be very useful. So we were using them I've been using them for a while, but like it only became public endorsement recently. But that's the company. It's Chessify.me.
If you don't mind, how much does it cost to rent on, say, an hourly basis?
This depends on the speed of the engine and your plan. So you can rent different plans. They have their own currency. You buy their currency and you can rent. You
Buy
can get
coins.
Yeah.
Buying
Golden
coins. Crypto coins.
They have their currency, or they also have plans where you can like rent a certain engine for free, but it's a lesser
version.
Yeah, it's a
just to
lesser
give you a
version.
taste of what you might be missing or something.
Yeah,
like
so
that.
that's the idea.
Wow.
I think they have a really nice service.
I'm impressed. I mean, and you use it obviously very, very effectively. I mean,
Yeah, I think a lot
Wow.
of people use it. A lot of like like Anish definitely uses it. He also endorses them. Levon also endorses them.
Right.
So I don't know how many people use it at the highest level, but definitely it's becoming pretty popular. But you don't have to go back too far before it was a complete revelation to professional chess players that you could use cloud engines.
Right.
Like I was telling this to someone in 2016. I won't say who, but a very strong player. And they were like,
like stunned.
like what?
Right.
What is this?
Right.
You rent?
Yeah.
You rent something.
Like what?
And now you will not find a player under 20, over 2,400 or
Grandmaster level, I would say.
or under Grandmaster. Yeah,
Right.
International Master. The kids especially.
As a chess coach.
We only use cloud.
Yeah, that's it.
Cloud. That's it. Yeah, I mean,
Wow.
and we started in 2019. And at that point, okay, I mean, I worked with you during the World Championship match, and
It was 2018.
we were using the cloud at that point quite seriously.
Well, in 2018 we were doing something like we were renting off the cloud in a way that anyone can do, but we also got help from this company Two Sigma.
Yeah.
They were just giving us their servers, so we were connecting to them remotely. But the hardware has changed it's remarkable how much has changed.
Right.
Like, what were kind of supercomputers back then? What were they giving us in nodes? Like 100? 100,000?
Yeah. 100,000.
So now we use like million. I mean,
Easy.
just to give like
Easy.
an example of the
Easy.
scales.
Yeah.
And it's easier to find that.
Yeah.
Like we
And
don't
the
have
type of engine. Like not only the type of engine changes, but also the speeds change.
the software,
ridiculously.
the hardware, everything is so much more advanced.
Yeah.
Wow.
And we're-
Simply wow.
I mean, the chess world in general is moving at an incredible speed. We were talking about the engines, but also you were talking about online prize funds. In 2020, before the pandemic started, nobody actually
Of
took
course.
seriously enough
Outside of
online
Title
chess,
Tuesdays, right?
Exactly.
Yeah,
That was
right.
the only, and that was like what, $500 for first
Yeah,
place
of
or
course,
something
of
like
course,
that.
of course.
When it went to 1,000, everybody was like, "Wow," you know.
Years before that, they
That was
tried.
2020.
Yeah, but years before that, Gary did with Kasparov Chess try to create an online event, and I think he actually got knocked out of his online event where they had, let's say, some decent prizes. But you're at
Not at
it
this
was
scale.
No, it was a revolution.
But that was
it
like
was
3 years ago.
It's
That's not a long
unbelievable.
time ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
But
changed remarkably.
Yeah, chess.com and the Magnus Carlsen tour is just revolutionized.
But I want to bring
Chess.
up a topic that
Please.
So cheating. Back to that.
Okay, one of our
Like-
least favorite topics. But
Yeah.
go for it.
I mean, obviously, people were talking about this heavily when the whole Magnus Hans thing happened, right?
Exploded here in St.
Yeah.
Louis,
And then it sort of died down again.
thankfully.
And it's at some point it's going to explode again. I can just tell you.
It's just like it's a roller coaster
gonna
ride.
happen
We
again.
can't get off of
I mean,
it.
it was clear it would happen at some point. Obviously, nobody could predict that it would happen in that instance, right?
No.
But that it would happen at some point, that someone says something very inflammatory. It's going to happen again.
Sadly, but
Because
I
it's
agree.
like the
It's inevitable.
suspicion that's bubbling beneath the scene is just too much. It's
Right.
like everyone is suspicious of someone.
Mhm.
And it's like, okay, obviously Gada is very public with the comments he sometimes makes, and Vladimir Kramnik is very public with the comments that he sometimes makes about cheating in
What he sees
like
as
Title
suspicious
Tuesday, right?
behavior.
Yeah, like sometimes they go too far. I
Mm-hmm.
think like they definitely can let their suspicions get the better of them and
The
go into
emotions.
right?
Yeah, right.
And maybe even accuse people who are doing nothing wrong.
Right.
But the general idea, I think, is sort of correct. I think that there is more cheating than we
Want to acknowledge.
Yeah, probably. I don't know where it is, who it is.
I'm trying to remember. I saw this, probably a thread either on Reddit or on Twitter, where it was basically explaining this software that was cheating in a human way. Like you could adjust the type of cheating that you were doing with the software. And it was
So it
so
would purposely
difficult.
make mistakes.
So difficult to catch it. So
Right.
difficult to catch it. So I don't know what's behind the scenes in terms of software capable of cheating.
Right.
But I have a feeling it's much more than we know or we can imagine.
Right.
And it's probably developing at the same speed or probably faster than the ones that are trying to catch the cheaters are.
Right.
So
But also, if you
it's
have a
problematic.
strong player, you just don't need it.
It's problematic.
And you know what's
Oh,
even worse? I was thinking about it a little bit. Because let's say if someone has a system, if a person has a system in which they cheat, there's probably a pattern there.
Yeah.
Right? People tend to work within patterns. But imagine if someone cheats spontaneously.
Right.
Because they just get upset. Not because they're trying to win money. They're just, I'm fucking pissed off that I'm losing. And then they just like turn their phone on in the like random point in the middle of one game, in the middle of one tournament.
Right.
I mean,
And
it's
then
still
they play
cheating.
3 very, very, very important good
Yeah,
moves,
and then they're like, oh,
winning.
now I have a good position. Okay.
Okay, turn it off.
And then they play, and then whatever happens, like you have a winning position, you might win, you might lose, who knows?
Right.
But still, it is cheating. It does help you.
Right.
And it does change your level from whatever it is to a certain higher level.
Right.
Maybe it's plus 200, maybe it's plus 300, who
Right.
knows? But completely spontaneous random cheating by a grandmaster
It's right.
would be just like impossible. I mean, we just have to live with it, basically.
You're right.
So it just you basically accept when you play an online tournament that my opponent could at any moment turn their phone, like in these non-monitored tournaments. Like if the cameras are on, then it becomes a bit more
Right.
like let's say Champions Chess Tour, cameras are on, then suddenly there's an extra level of work that someone has to go through, which is definitely not insurmountable. I mean, whatever the work is, I don't know. I haven't really thought about like the technological side of it, but definitely there's a way. There's just how could it not?
But that's
there not be,
online
right?
events, right? And then you have the face-to-face events where somebody in the audience, one of your friends that nobody knows that he's your friend or she's your friend, just coughs at a certain moment in time. Or like, you can
Stands
do
up.
something like this, stands
Right.
up.
Yeah.
You can agree beforehand what type of signal you want to employ.
But the signal only says one thing. This is a moment.
This is the moment.
This is it. That's
Find
it.
the moment.
Right. And then you see the person standing up and you go, okay, I was contemplating the sacrifice, but the stand up now says the sacrifice is good.
And you
get
can
the
have
But this is a great risk. First of all, you're including another person,
precisely so.
which means that at any point,
Yeah, the paranoia of like this person could turn on me.
that too. That you have to trust the person.
Right.
You also have this was the problem. What brought down Feller, right? You know the Feller case.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just like for the people who don't know about it, it's French Grandmaster was caught cheating in the Olympiad, and also
with the
there's a lot of
text,
tournaments, yeah.
he gave his phone to somebody, and it was like, "What's
It was
this?"
3 people, right?
Right.
It was the first
captain.
person was a person at home giving information to the captain, and then the captain signaling, I forget exactly how. to
He
the
would
players.
go from
Going
one
behind,
player.
right? Or
Yeah, he was going to the
pattern.
left side of the board and then the right side of the board, and that was
That's quiet.
yeah,
Nobody knows about it.
exactly.
And
It's
it
just
fell
the
apart?
captain walking around.
Yeah.
It fell apart because text got somehow revealed.
Exactly.
So-
Feller borrowed his phone to somebody to make a phone call, and
I don't remember the
someone-
details,
Yeah,
but
yeah, yeah.
something happened, and somehow the text
Right.
messages got discovered.
Precisely.
So there's always an extra element of risk. If you can actually do it on your own, that's ideal, right? I mean,
Right.
you don't have to include someone else.
Clear.
But over the board, I mean, it's just so much more difficult. Like I wouldn't worry about it over the board just yet. Maybe at some point, maybe like the technology advances, then we have to worry about it over the board. But just at the moment, online though is a difference. I mean, especially
One of the interesting things for me, and we always talk about the singularity and humans and computers having a mesh up, but there's no question that between now and that moment of singularity, we are going to use chips. We are going to embody ourselves with chips. And maybe what I want as a chip, instead of being in a situation, what year was the Academy Award won and what was the movie? I've got the chip that has the Encyclopedia Britannica and every fact and figure that is instantly in my mind. Now I've got the microchip. But then I have a microchip that is also a chess engine. And
it's
I'm
over.
telling you,
It's over at that point.
I've got the microchip in my mind because I'm accessing, this library of information.
Then we've got bigger problems.
The chess. You don't have to worry about chess.
Forget the chess.
We got insider trading going on over here.
I think bigger problems than that. I mean, we got Terminator happening.
We got issues. Okay, fortunately, nothing in our lives to worry about. But I think Elon Musk is trying to do.
Not in our lives. I think 5-10 years.
Yeah.
There.
David Levy, International Master David Levy, had given me his book where he predicts by the year 2050 we will be marrying robots.
I'm pretty sure it already happens.
And
2050.
And he says we're on schedule. So I mean,
I'm not surprised because I already see some news about things like that every once in a while, especially with like virtual reality, right?
Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
Okay, this is not. I mean, that's definitely been explored that people will start living virtual lives
Right.
completely.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's a bit scary.
I mean, put a VR headset on and start talking or like
By the way,
dating.
that makes me nauseous. The VR
artificial
headset.
intelligence. They don't have the capability right now. Like you can only do certain things and look realistic. But again, we're like 5 to 10 years away. Few $100 billion invested by the right company, and there you have it. Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, Facebook has been losing a ridiculous amount of money trying to develop
Exactly.
that.
They're taking a risk. I mean, if they're the first ones there, then
Right. You can buy real estate on the VR, right? Buy a house.
It's crazy. What else?
Dude, there's
We've
just so
covered a lot of
much.
ground.
There's just so much that has happened in the world of chess. And by the way, the women's game, to me, there was just the Tata Steel in India.
Okay.
That was really, really a nice event. And it just seems to me that the women's game is, you talk about the golden era for chess, but I think the women are being included. By the way, am sporting a Karen's Cup. Hello. I mean, and that's a really, really nice event. And I think there's just going to be more of these types of events coming up. The women are happy.
Oh, interestingly, did you see what happened today between the U.S. because the Women's World Team Championship is happening? Just started.
A new event.
Poland.
A new event in
And
Poland.
the U.S. team beat Bulgaria, which is a strong team, 4-0.
No way.
4-0.
Woo! Go, ladies.
I mean, I'm not rooting against Bulgaria,
Of course not.
but I am rooting for the U.S. naturally.
Right.
So
Right.
I was happy to see, and they also won their first match against Germany, which I think was an upset. I think that was a bit of an upset as well.
Also.
So hopefully they keep going. 2-0 so far is pretty good.
They're
doing well.
Darn good.
They're
Darn
doing
good.
well. That's actually not a very long tournament. They play rapid chess for the most part. I think 45 minutes plus 15, something along those lines. So different event.
They need to
fun
stop
event.
doing random time controls.
Thank you.
What is it? 45 minutes
you.
plus 50 seconds.
It's so difficult to keep track.
We're playing here in the Fisher Random 20 minutes plus 5.
Last year
I'm
was
not
like
gonna-
25. 2 years ago it was 15.
And I'm looking at that, I'm going, that's a different rapid time control. Why can't we just have a 3 plus 2? That's your 5 minutes. Let's go on. Figure out 15 plus 10. That's your rapid. Let's go. 90 minutes plus 30 seconds. No second. That's your classical. Let's go. And just
Yeah, I think that's good. But I think we could have maybe like faster blitz, slower blitz. So 5-3 and 3-2 because I like
5-3 and 3-2.
I like them for different reasons. I think
Okay.
they're both interesting. And
But
then
standardize the
standardize.
damn
At least
time
you have
controls.
like 2 in each. 2 in each, let's say.
Okay.
So you don't like 25, 45.
Every time I go to a tournament, I feel like I have to. It's like by the 4th day
As a commentator.
that
you have to
I'm
adjust as
now.
well. Imagine being-
I know the time control.
Imagine being a player.
No, it's just brutal. I mean, because you.
You don't train all these time controls.
No, and you're always constantly making these inner adjustments. You're playing a rapid chess game, and you've got 15 plus 10. You establish a certain rhythm for yourself, and you realize you're not going to spend 5 minutes on a single move. Now it's 25 plus 10.
Sure.
You're just like, wait a minute, maybe I can spend 5 minutes on a single move on a 25 plus 10. So it's got to throw you off. It's
Also, I think
brutal.
it's better for fans, viewers. They just understand what they're getting into.
Which brutalizes, once again, the World Championship cycle itself, because the candidates and the World Championship match, uses a time control that nobody else
Also,
would think of doing. It's
I'm
terrible.
trying to remember, but I think that they were changing the time control inside this candidates and world championship cycle.
For this new one
next
coming
one.
up in 2020.
No, I don't know about the next one. I'm talking about like in the past, from what I remember. The time control was changing. Like when I played, I think it changed.
Well,
I
you
can't remember
had a very,
exactly.
very long time control, right?
Yeah.
The very long.
Did it change from the candidates?
With the 3. Well, the thing was in Düsseldorf in February, the tournament Levon won. Vadim wanted to organize the tournament to give Nepo some exposure to the time control for Madrid. So they used this incredibly, insanely long time control to get...
But not for Madrid, for the world championship match in Kazakhstan.
Yes.
Yes, sorry. Yes, that's right. For the world championship
Yeah,
match
they use this
itself.
very long.
Yeah, so that he could get this training.
Well, as a commentator, you were having 8-9 hour days.
You were having a lot of fun.
This is a
This was not in the
terrible idea.
contract. Where was this in the contract?
Who came up with this? I mean, where's my agent? He's fired. She's fired.
Dude, I feel like we talk about this every single podcast, but it's the Indian players.
Fantastic.
Holy smokes. I mean,
Holy smokes.
we brushed off Pragnanda, and his
Right.
performance in Baku, but what a performance, like breakthrough
Unbelievable.
performance. And
Yeah.
did you see
Gukesh too. I mean,
Gukesh.
Eljan,
okay, he's established.
Arjun, sorry.
Gukesh is, first of all, number 1 Indian player right now.
Wow, he passed
Dethroned
Vichy after 50
Vichy.
years, right?
At 17 years of age.
I know. It's incredible.
It's ridiculous, right?
Right.
And then Pragnananda.
Yeah,
I mean, the reception that he had after that performance,
right.
getting to the final, playing against Magnus. Sure.
Brilliant. Just, I mean, outrageous.
It's just
Let me just
ridiculous.
jump in on this one. In Düsseldorf, he sits out day 1 because he's just exhausted. He says, come on, guys, I got to sit out. No problem. He comes in for day 2. He's 4-0. The number of Indian fans who were outside the playing hall waiting for him to come out and sign them. And I mean, they rushed at me because I had the exit. They saw who I was and they went, oh. I could easily go to my car. Yes. And I was thinking for the first time in my life, like what Magnus, the opposite of Magnus said. I don't want to be like Prague because that dude was not going to get to dinner for another 40 minutes. I mean, it was pretty bad.
He made it to the World Cup finals.
Wow.
And he got received by, first of all, this flood of people right at the airport. But then Narendra Modi,
the
Prime Minister of India, one of the maybe one of the most popular, one of the most important persons on the planet.
And from Indian politics, since Gandhi, I mean, one of the most powerful politicians India's produced, receives him. And by the way, Modi has been very supportive of Vichy's career, too. Yes. So that's something to keep in mind. And India, the rise of India.
Just an incredible generation.
Absolutely phenomenal.
Yeah, I mean,
wow.
I have to say, at some point, I thought that Prague was probably falling behind. I was like, okay, he's stuck 2670, 2650, 2680, 2670.
Come on.
He's going to stay there forever. And
right.
But then I understood. That's because I've seen him since he was here in St. Louis. He played that match of the Millennials. Do you remember that?
I wasn't here for that, fortunately, because that was a very, very tough.
This guy was there.
Yeah.
I don't remember exactly what I was doing. Probably some commentary. Abdusatorov was here
there.
at the same. He had a funny haircut. He was like 10 years of age, like 2500.
Nice.
You could feel the swag from Abdusatorov for sure.
Right.
At that time. And of course, Pragnanda, since we have this perception, since we've seen him for so many years.
Right, growing up.
It feels like he's just been stagnating, but he hasn't been stagnating. He's been going from 25 to 2550, back 2530, back to 2600.
Right.
And now he's like 2720 or something like that.
2720, I think.
He's breaking through right now.
I was in Düsseldorf in February. Again, that was the tournament that Levon won. Jan was there. Wesley was there. The two kids, Gukesh and Prague. And I watched them analyzing together. And, you know, there are moments when you just say, okay, that's revealing. And I mean, like, wow. And I remember this very, very vividly. This was Garry Kasparov before he became world champion. We were in Nixich in 1983, and Garry lost the game to Spassky. And there was Lubojevich Timon and I, and we were watching the post-mortem, and it was like, no, you can't play that because of, and this went on for like 20 minutes. Lubo, who is the most communicative and talkative person I've ever met in my life, we walked back to the hotel in silence because we were dumbfounded by what we saw Garry produce. These kids, and I'm throwing Vincent in the mix there too.
Sure.
When they were analyzing together, I was looking around like, they got computer chips in their heads, man. They calculate fast.
Yeah. That's a very calculating generation for sure.
Right.
They calculate very well.
They do. And accurately.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I mean, you played against him. What did you feel his biggest strength was right now? Did you feel him as a complete player in every format, in every style of position?
Yeah, he's very tenacious. He calculates well. Pretty cool in general. Mm-hmm. Doesn't seem to get overly emotional, things like that.
Calm.
Yeah, in general, he keeps like a high level of play, and he's not one of those players that gets upset when they're in the bad position, which is good.
Right.
That's important.
Because a lot of players, they get very upset.
Yeah.
And you can kind of feel that, right?
Right.
And then you start to feel like, okay, I'm going to beat this person.
Yeah. The
Which
equilibrium.
is definitely not like, I wouldn't say complete yet, but okay, complete is difficult to achieve. But I mean, I'm speaking about this from the point of view of like an elite level, right?
Yeah.
I mean, obviously for strong grandmaster, he's a complete player, right? Like he has small weaknesses, but nothing like glaring.
Right.
Same with the elder kids, but I speak about these kids so often. I'm just kind of bored. Like every other day, I'm talking about.
But it is a phenomenal rise. It is, and India, man. I remember. I'm sorry if I mispronounce it. Wei.
No,
from China.
That's good. Wei, yeah.
When he came up, he was this prodigy. And everybody was saying, whoa, wait a minute. This guy is going to be the new Chinese superstar. And he's really good.
He's still very good. Yes.
Look, I mean, I don't mean any disrespect, but he didn't become the candidate.
Because he doesn't play.
Well, but
he hasn't played a lot.
Something went off the career rails. Because at one point,
he was playing actively at some point. He didn't make the final push to 2670.
That's what I mean.
2770 or whatever it is.
Yeah, and he didn't become a candidate.
No, that's why it's still a bit early to say. I mean, these kids will probably most, if not all, will be top players, but it's still too early to say. Like they could be the Vichy, Kramnik, Topalov
generation,
of their generation, right? They could be. Or some of them could be, and some could fall a little bit behind. Still remain very strong players, but not like, let's say,
top 10, but not
world championship level. Mm-hmm. And like everyone thinks they'll all be world champions. They can't all be world champions, right? There's only going to be a few world champions in history.
Full stop.
You're not everyone in your generation can be a world champion, right? So these things are unpredictable. I mean, they are tremendous players, of course, already. But some may stall a bit in their progress. Some may explode. Like Gukesh being the first to explode in progress was a surprise. Yeah, I didn't expect that.
Yeah.
I thought maybe Arjun, maybe Prague, but I didn't expect Gukesh to be the first to explode to the 2760. What is it? 2760?
I think he's close to 2770 now.
2765 maybe level.
Right.
That was a bit of a surprise.
Let me put you in a world of hurt. You got these three guys. You got to choose one for the next 2 years.
To do what?
To be the best of the three.
To by rating or by
rating? Arjun, Prague, or Gukesh. Who are you choosing.
It's funny because we did that in the first episode.
Yeah. It's like
Well, we can update the first episode.
every time I see Cigar, also
The same question?
I get. Well, like I gave an interview to Chess Base India recently,
Right, of course.
and so he kind of asked this.
Who do you pick out of our?
Well, he like an update since the
all-star
last time
lineup.
because I said Arjun at the start.
Okay.
Arjun is interesting. I don't know how his career will progress. I mean, he's very, very good, but like sometimes things just go a little bit wrong for whatever reason in his tournaments, and something just goes a little bit wrong. And like the World Cup, right? He played a really great tournament the entire way, and then something went a little bit wrong in that critical match against Prague. Because he actually should have been the one.
Right. If he had played this Queen A6 instead of what else?
Well, he just needed to draw with white in the second classical game. I mean,
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, you just however you do it, you just draw with white in a classical game, right? It's one of those like basic tasks for a strong grandmaster, right?
Should do it. Should
And
accomplish
let's say
that.
if I need to beat Arjun, Prague, any 2700 plus player, or even 2650 plus
on demand.
on demand, I consider my chances pretty low.
Agreed.
They're there,
Yeah.
but in classical, very, very low. So
Right.
something just went a little bit wrong that he didn't manage. And I have to say, his demeanor during that game was weird. Because I was watching the game. I mean, I was also playing, but I was... And I didn't really like understand where the trend of the game was going. I thought, okay, more or less white has a fine position from the opening. It looks about equal. Then it went to an endgame that looked more or less equal. But they kept playing forever and ever and ever. And of course, I figured, okay, so obviously he's under pressure. I didn't understand the endgame because it was some kind of weird chaos with like pass pawns on multiple sides. But they keep playing, so obviously he's pressed, like Prague is pressing this game.
Right.
And Arjun didn't have like any emotion throughout the game. It was very strange. So it was like no tension. It was kind of a weird. It just didn't like
No
fit.
fidgeting.
Yeah,
no
it
worries.
didn't fit the stakes. The stakes
of the moment. Yeah. Interesting.
So that was. I don't know. Sometimes it's like a little bit of destiny is involved also, right? Prague gets the candidates, Arjun doesn't.
Right.
Just based on that he won a game on demand with black. Of course, if you win a game on demand with black, you kind of deserve it.
Right. I mean, let's be fair. Yeah.
And if you lose a game with white on demand, then maybe
you don't deserve it.
Maybe you didn't do enough to qualify.
Right.
I don't know.
No, but I have to say, there's a very interesting clash of generations that's brewing right now. You guys are the gatekeepers, you know, Magnus, you, Ani.
30 group.
These guys are coming and they're knocking at the gate. They're like, hey,
20-year group.
But they still have a steep hill to climb.
Right.
Now because there's still a difference there.
Yeah, and it felt like that was so true in the finals where Magnus really was the gatekeeper, and it looked like he was very
Magnus,
impressive.
Fabi, Anish, you guys are going to be there for like the next 10, 15 years.
Wesley,
I don't know about 10,
15 years.
That's a long time.
Which
But
raises a
that-
question.
may-
What's the
maybe,
ideal
maybe.
ages? What is the ideal ages for being a premier player?
I mean, we could
25
probably,
to 35?
like when people
20 to
usually peak,
30?
right? Like when do people usually become world champion? Let's go back from, let's say, Fischer.
So Fischer 29, right?
Okay.
And more or less, Spassky was a little older than Fischer. Yeah.
Down.
Tal was the earliest by far. But then you had people like Bodvinik and Alekine. They were.
I don't want to
out
go off on
there,
Bodvinik
but-
again.
Yeah. By the way, just on that note, I do think, apologies, prove me wrong, in their 120 plus games that they played against each other, I do believe that Smyslov had an edge.
Yeah, but this is the thing. Bodvinik had this huge advantage because he had the automatic rematch.
Exactly.
Like, what is this rule?
It's
you lose a
amazing.
match, and
And
so
you
first he has
get-
the champion's privilege. If he
Right.
draws a match, he wins.
Exactly.
Which he used against Bronstein.
Yeah.
And probably also against Petrosyan. Like, did he use it once more?
I think against Smyslov.
Okay. And then if he loses the match, he gets
Because
another
it is a
match.
in boxing.
And he also created the system himself, right?
Right.
Like he was kind of one of the
the
pioneers of this.
architects
Yeah.
of the FIDE
I mean, you
system.
make a system and then you use it to stay world champion for 10 years on and off, right?
Right.
It's that's why and he wasn't really dominant.
Right.
I mean, he was a great player, but he wasn't dominant.
I really think we have to just forget about the past and kind of bring it the modern era and just talk about today's players. Today's players, you think about the modern era of Magnus today, and what is it, Magnus 33?
33, yes.
33.
Actually, I
And
He's
think
turning 33 this year, sometime this year. I don't know when.
November.
But he's
yeah.
been
It's always during the World
top
Championship
dude
match.
for 13 years. So you could say Magnus at 20 to now.
I wouldn't say 13. I would say
Well, he won in
actually
2013.
wait 2010. No. But like when was he highest rated?
Already by 2010, I think.
Well, was he consistently
2010.
highest rated? Because it was very close at some period. It was like
Well,
to
in
Paul
the
of Anand.
candidates, in the candidates in London, the one he qualified from.
He was
that point-
considered.
at that point, he was definitely-
He was
Right, yeah.
considered the best player on the planet right there.
Then.
I think 2012 maybe is when he like from like
Well, we may be talking Magnus 2022 to now.
Yeah.
And do you see Magnus as having, for argument's sake, another 5 golden years in front of him? Another
Yeah, for
10
sure. Oh, I don't know.
golden years?
That
10 is
depends
a
a lot
lot.
on him.
10 is a lot indeed.
That
Yeah.
depends also on his motivation.
Right.
Uh,
So
I-
maybe 20 to 35, which it would be like major league pitchers, by the way. I mean, that's considered
I mean,
their careers.
but you don't have to quit. That's the thing.
no,
like you
no,
can
of course
still
not.
you don't get
Ryans of the
injured.
world, yeah,
The only question is, will he be
you don't get injured.
number
That-
one? Will he be a top player? Like let's say when he's 55 years old, he'll still be a very strong grandmaster
Yeah,
at
yeah,
55.
right. Like,
right? He'll
okay,
still be
that's
super
a scary
strong.
thought right there.
But will I mean? Okay, Victor was a strong grandmaster at 70, right?
Amazing.
But
amazing.
obviously Victor was not a top
Smyslov
player.
also amazingly strong at 60.
He's almost
like
qualified for a
ridiculous.
match at 60,
Exactly.
60 something.
It took a Gary Kasparov to stop him, which is kind of funny. And Vichy today,
Vichy more
Is
recently.
he still?
like, excuse me.
It's
you
hard
know,
to say if he's
that
still
guy's-
like top, but he's still more or less an elite level player.
But
Definitely.
he also semi-retired.
Yeah, but
3
he-
years ago,
but if he
right,
trained,
like coaching and stuff.
if he trained, would he still be 2750 plus?
It's the energy
Probably.
levels, though.
Probably still.
But I mean, it is impressive.
He's there.
So
He's
you
there,
say 5 years. It really depends on Magnus, and I totally agree
Yeah,
with that.
I think that like so I first played him, I think 2010, if I can say that was the first time we played. And I think this goes for both of us. Like there are areas that were much better as players, areas that were definitely lost something. Like if I look back on myself, definitely I understand chess better. I kind of
No questions. Yeah.
that. But
Improved
what does
your
understand chess
knowledge.
mean, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, my knowledge of chess is much more, but definitely I lost some things. It's
Right.
not all improvements.
Exactly. Whether it be your energy, ambition, you're at the board
yeah,
pushing yourself.
there's a million factors. It could be something that you don't even think of, right?
Right.
Like I remember Rustam making this comment. He was like, "You have the weirdest time usage," but he almost made it seem like it was almost a good factor. It was like you're confused. Like you suddenly think for 30 minutes and then you make like 5 blitz
Direct moves
yeah.
in a row.
Which I completely changed how I spend time in a game. I don't know what's.
But you became conscious of it then.
Yeah,
Because a lot of times you're not conscious of your time usage.
but you never know how these things affect your opponent, right? Like
Right.
sometimes being in time trouble can actually negatively affect your opponent. Like there's a million
Truly.
factors, right? So sometimes I feel like I lost some things and I gained some things, and okay, overall maybe I'm a stronger player, but it's definitely not all improvements compared to, let's say, when I was
It's not
20
linear.
or 22, when I pretty much had the same rating, right?
Right.
My rating hasn't really changed in the last.
On the note of what you're talking about, one of the things that was incredibly scary was Vichy Anand at 17 and 18. Dude played the whole game in 10 minutes. I mean, you got 2 hours, dude. And I mean, you're playing a guy, you're used to a rhythm. Like I would be used to a rhythm where I used 2 hours, my opponent used 2 hours.
Nepo was doing that also.
It
at
was
some point.
unbelievable. It threw people off. I mean, later when Vichy slowed down, I mean, then we were seriously tasered because now we didn't understand Vichy at all. You know? Like how did the transformations he went through? It's remarkable.
No, I remember this Jan doing this also to like top GMs actually.
Playing
I remember playing
incredibly
against
quickly.
I think Dieter Nisipanu, who by the way was at some point in the semifinals of the World Championship match back. He lost against Halifman, I think.
Yeah, in
in
Las Vegas,
Las Vegas.
exactly, for the World Championship.
98 or something like that.
Shirov, maybe? Or-
Maybe to Shirov. Maybe
I
correct me, I'm
don't
not
remember
sure
this
of.
one clearly, but
No, I think it was
Strong
actually
GM,
Holly
2700,
Yeah.
27 plus,
in Las
basically.
Vegas, yeah.
I think he finished with more time than he started with. 1 hour 30. And it wasn't all theory. It was just like he was just blowing him off the board slowly but surely.
Wow.
Just
but this
ridiculous.
had pluses and minuses for Jan. Like
Yes,
there were
absolutely.
horror stories as well.
Of course,
Jan
absolutely.
doing this. It
Yeah.
sometimes works out and he's a genius, and sometimes it doesn't work out and he
Epic
blunders.
flop.
right?
Yeah.
Yep.
But Jan is an interesting, because I remember playing Jan in 2015. I'm gonna say in the first round of Dortmund.
You remember it well. Obviously.
No, I remember the game pretty well. I was just trying to remember the year. Like which
Yeah, I
year
know.
it was.
That's the hard part, right?
So he had-
Getting the place right is pretty good.
Yeah,
but
no.
the year is
No, because I played Dortmund a bunch of times.
Many times.
And so he had won a European Championship years before. Like he was well known as and he was 27-10 or so. But I didn't consider him the same level, and I really thought like this is a guy to beat.
Right.
And like let's say Wesley, I was also playing that tournament. Wesley was around 27-80, right? I thought, okay, this is just different levels.
Right. Players.
And Jan is the one who made the breakthrough rather than Wesley.
Remarkable.
Like if
if
two
you think
breakthroughs,
about
three
if you
breakthroughs,
think
two
about it
breakthroughs,
that
right?
way, yeah.
So it's you never know when someone's progress gets like. Also, Levon is an interesting case because
Levon.
he won the World Cup probably when he was around early 20s.
Wow. And number 2 in the world and closing in on Magnus.
Yeah, he had like a late development, and then he suddenly became like the guy who was most likely to be world champion besides Magnus.
Right.
And at some point, they were both considered like equal chances. Now, people who are watching this might not remember, right?
Right. And
those
don't
days.
forget in the candidates, it was Levon that knocked Magnus out in their
2000,
match.
Yeah, early 2009 or something.
Something like that, yeah. One maybe
2007.
Gelfen came out of, but it doesn't matter. But the point was, yeah, I mean, Levon, you thought he's such an obvious challenger to be. Obvious.
I think he got unlucky. Like he won. So in 2004, Rustam wins the World Championship, which is a
Libya.
knockout system.
Yep.
And 2005, Levon wins the same exact tournament,
Right.
which is a knockout. And it wasn't a qualification for the candidates. That's
Even.
interesting. It was a qualification.
Not only was it not the World Championship, it wasn't even a
It was a
qualification.
qualification for a qualification for the World Championship.
Right, which Topolov
For the
and
yeah.
Gata. Okay, never mind. Go on. Yeah,
Yeah, there was some mess there as well with
Right.
Topolov and
and
Gata
Kamsky.
playing,
Yeah.
But it's just very strange. Like this is also based on system, and sometimes there's some luck factors.
Right.
I mean, if he had won that tournament the year before, he would be world champion. But he wins
Exactly.
a year later, and it's called something else.
Right.
So
So it's not just about opportunity. It's it's winning when it really, 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 really counts. Yeah.
yeah, I think we can't negate we can't discount that. There is definitely some luck involved because
No question about
you can
it.
be a great player, but you also sometimes have to be at the right place at the right time, and also you are
Exactly.
dependent on a system, right? You
Yeah.
can't bend the system to your will. You have to work within the system.
True.
Yeah.
So the system is sometimes easier to get through than other times, right?
You dodged my question. The question was, you got Gukesh, you got Prague, you got Arjun,
I almost forgot about the question.
Going to be the
and you got 2 years from now, who's rated the highest? And by the way, this podcast is from 2023.
1 year later. 1 year later. Yes.
I don't know. There's also, is it like one random list or you just get like a full year average or something like that?
Golly, well, is that going to affect your answer?
Yeah, no, definitely.
I mean,
Because if it's one, I think it's going to be close. If it's like one random list, yeah, I don't know. Either one of them. Like,
Okay.
They'll probably bounce around a bunch.
okay, a weighted average over the next 2 years then.
Let's give it to Prague. You know what? I'll do that because Gukesh is higher, so I don't want to give the safe answer, right?
Okay.
You have the recency bias. I had that with Abdusatorov
Yeah.
after one of his after Vaikanse, where he did amazingly well. Right, he almost won the tournament. He should have won. Maybe he should have won the tournament. I'm gonna go with Gukesh. I'm gonna continue going with Gukesh.
Okay, dinner in 2 years is on is on the winner.
I did
I'm going to
this-
go with
I did
Arjun.
this with Maurice
Okay.
once. That was good.
I'm
I
going
bet
with
him
Arjun.
I bet Maurice something in like 2016.
Did you collect?
About Carissa because she was very young and she was playing like her first U.S. championship, and I
Right.
was like, she's going to be the first something at
Youngest.
this date, and he
Right.
was like, no, it's going to be something, and then I don't remember the bet. I don't remember the terms of the bet. I don't remember who won.
Right.
And I don't remember if anyone ever paid anything. So this is what happened to a bet in 2 years. Nobody paid anything.
This has got recorded, dude.
This is on camera.
And if I win, I'm cashing
But
in.
we can delete the video.
Reimagine history through the magic of television.
I was sure I chose Arjun, everybody. You know, make a copy in case they're
going to clip it. They're definitely going to clip it.
No, what is it when they make the deep fakes?
Oh, the deepfakes.
Yeah, you guys could change it on me.
I don't think we're that desperate for a free dinner.
Well, it depends. We haven't chosen the restaurant yet. Right?
All right. Well, I mean, on that note,
Exactly.
guys, it's been a blast. Good podcast to be back to.
Yeah,
guess
get
we'll-
back on it, guys.
we'll-
I mean, you've got a lot of fans.
It's a
out
weekly
there.
podcast.
It's a weekly. We don't
Believe us.
We don't measure
It happens during random weeks.
random
Yes.
weeks.
All right. See you guys next time. My goodness. Cheers.
Thank you.